Okay, it's shutdown day. Who's the best guy to bring in to talk about the shutdown? Doug Gross, Republican strategist and all-around really smart guy. In the house today with another smart guy, Tom Coates on Max World.
Let's get it started. Let's get it started in here. Let's get it started. Let's get it started in here.
Let's get it started in here.
Welcome to The View from a Pew, a conversation among Christians who are out to grow their faith by asking the simple questions, the tough questions, and the stuff you really wish your pastor would talk about. Come on now, let's reason together. It's your voice we want to hear. The phone lines are open, so join the conversation. Call 855-244-0077. That's 855-244-0077. Now, here's your host, J. Michael McCoy.
All right, 4 minutes after the hour on this gorgeous day, unless you live in Washington. Of course, today, the 1st of October, is the day that the government was shut down by those nasty, intolerant Republicans, and the frothing that's going back and forth in every piece of social media, everything is unbelievable. Now, did you guys hear the good news about the
World War II vets?
Yes.
I did.
The honor flight from Des Moines with World War II vets landed in Washington, went to the monument.
Were they open?
No, they were closed. So the old guys rushed it. They did. You'll see it on the news tonight.
Good for them.
Yeah, they just said, the heck with this. We didn't come all this way.
Yeah, absolutely. Good for them.
They stormed the beach in Normandy. They weren't going to let
That's why they were called the greatest generation. Brother.
Yeah, so they stormed the World War II memorial.
Good for them.
So, all right. Just what's going on? I mean, what's going on?
I mean, our country is in a state of a period of time where we have very weak leadership, frankly, on both sides, both Republicans and Democrats. And a president, as Tom indicated earlier, seems much more adept or willing to negotiate with the Syrians and the Iranians than he is with Republicans, and he shows no leadership whatsoever. I think organizations usually take their cue from the top dog, their leaders. Mm-hmm. And when their leader is just blatantly partisan, doesn't really seem to care about the future of the country, just cares about his own hide, that's what they do too. And that's what we got going on in Washington right now.
Well, and I listen to the far right as much as I listen to the far left, so I understand both. But Hannity was just going crazy the other day with over the weekend. Any other president, including Clinton, if we were in this type of problem, he's meeting with the House of Representatives, he's meeting with party leaders. Mm-hmm. Obama met with no one, and played golf.
Right, no one. I mean, and never intended to. Never intended to. And I thought what the Republicans actually, if you looked at it substantively, what they put on the table was not unreasonable.
No.
They said, hey, you've already delayed portions of Obamacare yourself because you know they don't work. Why don't we delay it as well, particularly the individual mandate, the one that impacts most people in a negative way? Let's delay that too. Why not do that? You did these other things, and no. I mean, it was no. And as I said, as organizations, They take the glow of their leader, and this guy's got a dull view because he simply does not want to negotiate, even with people in his own country within the congressional branch of government. And the worst part about this, Mac and Tom, is this hurts the country. I don't know how you guys feel.
Okay.
I
want to know how.
Well, I think our economy right now, at least I sense it, is vulnerable.
Because the markets were up at noon today.
Yeah,
the markets are not a good barometer.
No, they're highly mercurial. But our economy is very tenuous right now. In Iowa, it's more tenuous than it's been for some time.
Well, because of the weakening grain prices.
Right.
I don't know how closely you follow that.
I do. But, I farm. We went from $7, $8 corn to now, $3 or $3.50 potentially in the future corn.
Yeah.
So you have that, and people draw on their horns right away. And as a result, we got a very delicate situation with the economy. And you throw on this kind of uncertainty associated with the government, and nobody's going to make spending decisions. And when people don't make spending decisions, nobody gets hired, nobody's income goes up, and things go downhill. And it's a bad deal. Frankly, I think they're violating their fiduciary obligation to the country.
Well, we've got Obamacare, which ironically and hypocritically enough Doug, was jettisoned without any Republican support. They rammed it down the throats. Increasingly, it's unpopular with the American people on opinion polls, and yet they have the brass to accuse us of being dictatorial. They're the ones that have been dictatorial to put the whole Obamacare thing together in the first place. If we had a Senate at that point that could have had the numbers to sustain a filibuster, we might have been without it.
Right.
We didn't.
But the fact is, we do have it, Tom. We had an election. The Senate stayed Democrat, and the president was reelected. Whether we like that or not, that happened.
Understand. Now, here's my point.
Where I think Republicans make a mistake.
Okay.
Republicans, instead of just sort of knee-jerk saying, we're going to throw everything away, and as a condition to allowing our government to function, or as a condition to allowing us to pay our debts that we've already obligated ourselves to, as a condition of that, you've got to get rid of the whole thing. I think that's a mistake, because the people made their decision. They like parts of it. They just don't like the parts of it that hurt people and cause reduction in jobs.
Well, they like the parts that they've heard about. Now, there was a story today.
There's a portion of Obamacare. Frankly, there's a portion of Obamacare I don't think is a problem in terms of trying to get hospitals based upon performance rather than just based upon number of services you provide. I think that makes sense. We should have done that a long time ago. Chuck Grassley sponsored that years ago.
I agree. But, Doug, one of the issues that many of the people most like, especially if you're in this category, if somebody in your family with a pre-existing condition, and the put out by the Obama and their minions is that you got a pre-existing condition, you're going to be able to get this insurance at next to nothing.
No, it costs money.
And I heard of a case today where somebody with pre-existing was quoted $33,000 a year in premiums.
Yeah, no,
so much of the popularity is based on hype and illusion. You want your own doctor, you're going to be able to keep it.
That's not true.
And the quality of the care and the cost of the care is all going to go down. And the reality is, especially on the young, that in many numbers voted for Obama in large numbers, there's the ones that they're cost shifting to. Now, let me ask you a question. We saw the drama of the Cruz.
But I don't. Just so to make it clear, I don't support the Republicans or the Democrats in this. I think
right,
both of them made a mistake,
coming to a
and
question.
both of them are violating their fiduciary duty to the country.
All right. Well, that's where I'm coming to this question on that the Cruz filibuster, which drew a lot of attention, got a lot of press, most of it unfavorable.
Yeah. Although he was doing it for his base, Tom, and he really helped himself with his base.
Well, there's no question about that. But let me ask you, if you were sitting in the U.S. Senate and it came to the closure vote on this, would you have voted for to shut the filibuster off, or would you have stuck with the 19 Republican senators, which our own Senator Grassley was one of, that voted to not allow closure on that? What would your position have been?
Well, I'm not a senator, and I don't expect I'll ever be. But my view on this is that there are times and places to fight over Obamacare and over the debt and over spending, and those are the appropriations process. That's where you ought to have those battles. So as we move appropriation bills through the House and the Senate, you have conference committees. You cannot pass an appropriations bill without the House starting it. So when the House starts appropriations bills, they ought to change Obamacare the way they want to.
And they've tried.
And then negotiate it out. That's how you ought to deal with these issues.
And they've tried. And as you mentioned earlier, Doug,
this is not the way to deal with it. It isn't.
Okay.
It's going to hurt Republicans. Mark my word, it'll hurt Republicans. Republicans were sitting on this threshold of being able to make huge gains, I think, in 2014 elections and the off-year elections, because clearly the economy isn't recovering very quickly. Clearly Obamacare is costing us jobs. There's lots of problems associated with that. We should fight to change them. Of course we should. But we shouldn't make it worse. That's where I draw the line.
What if Obamacare continues, Doug, to be as unpopular as it has, because it's been growingly unpopular as people learn more about it? If this continues to grow in its unpopularity between now and 2014, will that benefit accrue to the Republicans in those off-year elections in the House and the Senate?
It would have. That's my argument, is it would have. And I think we'd had major, what you need when a body politics can't seem to get its act together in a democracy is you need elections, because you need to have the people resolve these things, because the people don't want the place to go to hell in a handbasket, presumably. So you need to have elections. And we were leading up to an election in 2014 where I think, as I said, we're going to make great gains for these kinds of concerns. But now the message is Republicans basically are anarchists who want to destroy government. and they just want to shut it down. And that'll make what we do then is we put our most extreme face on our party when we do that, and we turn off a bunch of independent voters who otherwise are with us on these kind of issues.
But, Doug, who's saying that? Independents aren't, and conservatives aren't. You are?
No.
You're saying the Republicans are anarchists?
No, I'm not.
No, I think he's parroting the Obama and the Harry Reids and the Pelosi's.
Hey, I've talked to some Republican congressmen, and there are 20 Republicans in the House, in that caucus, that wanted to do this. The rest of the caucus did not, because they thought the best place to do this is over the debt ceiling. And frankly, I agree with them. Because on the debt ceiling issue, you have a very clear issue about whether you want to put the country in more debt. And frankly, we have enough cash flow in the country on a regular basis. You can pay your obligations and not really have a default. So that would have been a place to draw the line. This was not the place to draw the line, in my opinion, because what you do here is you shut the country down largely because it looks like you wanted to. And no, they didn't. They say they didn't want to. Obama says he doesn't want to, but they're both, frankly, immature and handling this in inappropriate ways.
But why is it any more the Republican fault than it is the Democrats?
It's not. It's both. But I think frankly, I think it's more the president's fault. I think I said that earlier, because I think an organization like this takes on, as I said, the color of its leader. And President Obama is a guy who's highly partisan, who doesn't really care about the future of the country, in my opinion. That's sad as our president.
Very true.
I mean, that's sad. So I think he's mostly to blame, because I don't think Republicans in the House would act the way they were had they not been treated the way they've been treated by this president for lots of years.
Well, look,
that being said, there are good Republicans in the U.S. House of Representatives who understood that this was not the place to draw the line. It should have been drawn somewhere else, and they were hijacked by 20 of their members who frankly don't care.
Well, the most recent example of being mistreated by this guy was when the Syria issue came up, and I was upset with Boehner and some of them for Cantor to quickly run to his side and pledge their support.
Right.
And he kicked him in the teeth at the end of that. He didn't even bother to give him a call. He reversed course, took the Putin issue, and didn't even bother to give him a courtesy call.
That was almost beyond the pale, in my opinion, Tom, because, they always say, politics stops at the water's edge. So here are these guys. The president decides he needs to do this for national security reasons, and they go out and with him. And, they're at the end of the branch, and he's chopping off the branch behind
Exactly
him
right.
and laughing about it.
Yeah.
I mean, how would they ever trust him? And that's my point, is we've got leadership here that's not good, but we're stuck with it for another 3 years. Yeah. So what do we do? And it's not because we need to look ourselves in the mirror, because our country reelected the guy overwhelmingly. So what do? Well, my view of what you do in a bad situation is you try to make the best of it, not try to make the worst of it. And I'm concerned Republicans are making the worst of it with this, and as a result, not helping the country, most importantly, and certainly not helping the party.
So you think that the Democrats, especially because of their edge with the media, whether it be print media,
Sure.
whether it be TV, most of the Americans aren't listening to conservative talk radio or reading the conservative blogs, and so their filter comes back around through the pro-Obama media. And you're thinking that from a political standpoint,
Yeah, from
nothing
a political
else,
standpoint.
not principle or not ideology, but just a political standpoint, it's a mistake because you allow them to characterize the Republicans, especially the conservative Republicans, as this hate-filled group that does nothing wanted to shut down the federal government.
They just want to shut it down, shut it down.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think they can do that. And understand, we're talking here about people in the middle who largely are highly skeptical of government because their lives have been made worse by government over the past few years, not better.
That's very true, if they figured it out.
But they're also not very well tuned into the media. Certainly, they're not people that watch Fox every night.
No.
They're not people that watch MSNBC every night. So
Right.
these people just sort of get filtered through the air. And when they sense there's a lot of disruption and things aren't working and things aren't happening and businesses aren't creating jobs and people are losing their jobs, they react. And as a result, through the filter of the media lens, they're going to get the sense the Republicans were the reason for this, Tom, and that's not going to be good for the party.
All right, we're going to take a break, and when we come back, we'll have this conversation continue with Doug Gross, a Republican Party strategist, former chief of staff of Governor Branstad, and gubernatorial candidate himself, along with Tom Coates, who's just got his nose in everybody's business when it comes to politics. And the good thing is he knows most of the time what he's talking about, right?
Some of the time.
Some of the time.
Oh, a lot of the time.
Here's the conversation I want to have when we come back, guys, is it sounds like the public itself is down on Washington. It sounds like it's not going to be one side or the other. So what do we do as the public to make Washington understand that they're about to get fired? Let's talk about that when we come back. Live on KTIA, Iowa.
If you choose to obey the power of sin, it leads to death. If you choose to obey obedience, it leads to righteousness.
Forgiveness is just the beginning of life in Christ. God wants us to live for Him now.
And because of Jesus Christ, the gospel was preached, and you and I are blessed today because of Abraham. Did you know that? We're blessed.
Experience Truth, 99.3 FM.
Yes, now your favorite programs on Webcast One Live can all be watched and listened to on any Android or Apple device. Your phone, tablet, or iPad. Yes, your favorite shows on Webcast One Live are available live or on podcast wherever you go. Let me introduce to you some of our great shows.
Shalom. Every week on Understanding the World with Rabbi David Kaufman, we'll talk about issues in the Middle East, issues related to the Jewish tradition and religious traditions in general, and keep you up to date on exactly what's going on around the world. You may know some of the story, but you haven't heard all of the story until you've heard it on Understanding the World with Rabbi David Kaufman and our special guests we have on every week.
Hi, I'm Doc. You listen to me every Tuesday from 6 to 7 p.m. on Doc and Lefty radio podcast program, where we discuss all the relevant topics of the day, including state, local, and national politics. My partner in crime, Lefty, often likes to have a little bit of conservative justice served upon him, so please turn in for the fireworks every week from 6 to 7 p.m. on Tuesdays at webcastonelive.com. Thank you.
So when you want to watch your favorite Webcast One program, remember, there's an app for that. You know, there's an app for that.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Get away from us, you mean old credit card. We don't have any more money. We're in trouble now. Save us! Help! Somebody save us! Somebody help! Help! Save us!
Hi, I'm Tom Coates from Consumer Credit of Des Moines. If your credit card's a little too animated, give us a call.
Hooray! We're saved! Consumer Credit! You're our hero!
We've got questions. You've got the answer. Join the conversation. It's your voice we want to hear. So call 855-244-0077. Now, here's J. Michael McCoy.
21 minutes after the hour on this, the first day of October in the Lord's year 2013. Will this day go down in history as a joke played on the American people by Washington? The government shut down. We saw an incredible sight today, and if you haven't seen this yet on your social network or your network news, you'll see it tonight on the national news. The honor flights that come from Des Moines for the World War II vets to go back and see the memorial in Washington, well, about 75 of them showed up today, and guess what? The memorial was closed. So what did the greatest generation of all time do? Just like Iwo Jima, they rushed them. They knocked down the gates and still got in to see the World War II memorial. And I think that's just, it's kind of like Occupy Washington, or it's Occupy New York 60 years later.
Reverse, yeah.
Okay, real quickly, before we move on. Well, you know what? I'll hold my question till the end, because that's really an overall, what are we going to do?
Okay.
But you want to talk to Doug about a comment he made about Steve King.
Yes, and Doug, it was a little over a week ago you were doing the Insiders, and you made some comments in regards to Steve King that raised an awful lot of hackles. I heard Spiker call in to one of the local talk shows and have his comments, and again, that might be something you want to go back and listen to. A number of the callers did. Steve King was on the show, and so there was a couple days of quite a bit of dust up over your comments. I'd like to hear from you what you meant and what if you really intended to create that much of a turmoil.
Well, you made I have no idea about creating turmoil, because what I was trying to do is, frankly, send Steve a message that, you know, there's a kernel of truth in a lot of what Steve says in terms of immigration and some of these other issues, particularly immigration in terms of securing the border and lots of these things. But he demonstrates that in a way that, in my opinion at least, makes us look like we're heartless and cruel and don't care. And what it particularly hurts us, Tom, as a party, the Republican Party, is with young people. And if you know, a lot of people want to talk about the future of the Republican Party and what we need to do and how we need to attract more minorities and that sort of thing. Yeah, some of that's true, but it's going to be difficult for us, at least first generation, to attract a lot of Republicans out of immigrants, for example. However, young people should be attracted to our party because we're the party of opportunity. We believe in opportunity for those folks who are starting out in life because we believe in the free market system. And they're really turned off by the Republican Party right now. If you look at the numbers in the last presidential election, we got really hurt among young people, and they did vote. We didn't think they would vote, and they voted again. So if we're going to have a future of our party, we need to attract young people. And I'm just telling you, I've got five young adults, and they are totally turned off when Steve King talks about immigrants with calves of watermelons carrying dope, as if they all are that way, or saying that, you know, they're killing more people than the Muslims did at 9/11. They're turned off by that, and the problem with that is Steve has become the left wing media loves to use Steve as a caricature of our party because he reinforces what they like people to think our party is, which are a bunch of folks who don't really care about anybody else except ourselves. That's not our party. I know that's not even Steve King. He's smarter than that. He knows that. But he gets attracted by that attention he gets by the media, and he falls into that trap. He makes our state look bad, he makes our party look bad, or he makes our country look bad, and turns off young people. So as a result of it, I was trying to send him a message because, Tom, all I said was, Steve needs to be careful. That district has changed than it was before. It's not as staunch conservative as it was before. You've got Ames in it, Mason City in it, Charles City, some of those areas that vote Democrat. And Steve needs to be careful. He's going to get himself a primary opponent because I've had 2 or 3 people already express that interest to me, and I want to send him a message. He needs to be careful.
Now, are you saying in 14 or 16?
16.
Yeah, you did say you were tired of Steve King. I heard the soundbite a couple of times.
I'm tired of Steve saying those kinds of things. That is,
but he's a good
true.
congressman.
Not when he does that.
Okay.
All right. So and let me repeat and see if I'm hearing what you're saying right. That much of what Steve King says and believes, and he has been down the border and he has done his diligence, is correct. That we're seeing an awful lot of drug trafficking come up from a border that's not really secure at all. It's more of a sieve. That there are some issues. We haven't even gotten into the issue of cost shifting, where an employer will hire somebody at $6 or $7 an hour and let the rest of us pay twice that on rent subsidies, free education, free health care, food stamps, and you name it. All of those types of cost shifting. I mean, there is a number of things that I'm hearing you say that you would agree with Steve, but you feel like his rhetoric is too inflammatory.
He's demeaning a whole group of people when he says those things. There are drug dealers across that border, and that should be stopped. Absolutely. Yes, there are people that are living off the system, and we're having to pay for it. Yes, there are employers that are using this labor to try to reduce their labor costs for people that can't afford to get a living wage for their family anymore. All those things are difficult and are serious issues. We ought to be addressing those. But we don't demean everyone. There's a lot of good, hard-working people that are good, family-oriented. They're trying to make their way. My family my family came from Germany because they were being discriminated against by the government. Bismarck didn't like them because they were Catholic. And they came over here as effectively refugees.
Well, and we're a nation of immigrants.
We are.
We know that.
So don't demean, because we're unique among all countries on this face of this earth. What creates our economic dynamism that other countries don't have is we always regenerate ourselves. because this is a land of hope and opportunity, and people want to be here.
But it was a melting pot.
People want to make a name for themselves.
But
we do not want to be Japan.
But you're talking
Japan
about,
is drawn around the borders, don't let anybody else in, and their average age is going to be over 60 before
long. Well, that's true. And Mexico, their southern border is not like ours.
No.
They do not allow people to come in willy-nilly. But it used to be more of a melting pot, which is another one of the concerns here, Doug. It has become more of a segmented, segregated society where
we don't want that.
And the language is one of the big issues.
I've always agreed with Steve on language issues.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're going to come to our country, you need to learn our language, because otherwise you're never going to assimilate and learn our way of life, and you're never going to succeed. Most importantly, you're never going to understand and have a good education. So I don't know that I disagree. That's why I said before, there's kernels of truth in what Steve is saying. But you don't demean an entire group of people and make our state look like we don't care, because we do.
So let's take the rhetoric out of it. If you were in charge and you said, this is what I intend to do, if I'm in charge about the border situation and immigration, what do you do tomorrow?
Well, I know that I'll never be in charge. So
well, but theoretically, I'm interested in hearing what
Tom's living through you vicariously.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
What would you do if you were in charge of the immigration situation?
Well, first of all, the current system clearly doesn't work well, because people that want to come here, that we'd want to have here, who have good educations, have ability, engineers and the like that we need here, have a heck of a time coming in. So what we need to do is rationalize the system. So you put a priority on those folks who have a chance to come here, and then you enforce it. Nothing more than that. You enforce it in a swift and effective way.
How do you? Are you talking about E-Verify? Is that what you?
I don't think E-Verify is good enough, because I've got clients, for example, that use E-Verify, and half the times, I don't know about half the time, but a lot of times it's not right.
But let's assume you could get a
picture ID for these folks. You got to have a picture ID so you can enforce these requirements.
But the Democrats hate the idea of picture IDs.
I don't care.
I'm asking what he would want to do.
But aren't they suing?
But he's saying a legitimate verification of citizenship. Okay. And they say, well, you can't deport 11 or 13 million. And no, we don't have to, because if the employer were required to verify this is a legitimate resident, and maybe we expand the green card.
And I know enough employers, they would do so if they had the tools to do so.
Yes.
So the job of government is to give them the tools necessary to verify that, and that's what they ought to do. And my view is then the problem sort of takes care of itself.
I agree with you, and that's what Romney said. Isn't that what Romney said? Take care of that. And in the 21st century, with the technology we have, I do not believe that we couldn't for a second do exactly what you suggested. Very easily. So it's willful. It's willful on the part now.
Oh, I think the Democrats. Don't get me wrong. By saying Steve shouldn't call people, have calves of antelope or cantaloupes, doesn't mean, and I criticize that, doesn't mean that I'm saying the Democrats are doing this right. By no means. They're more crass in terms of how they're handling it, because they see it as an opportunity on a long-term basis to build their party and get a voting bloc that they'll have for a couple of 3 generations. Clearly, they're seeing that as their opportunity. Well, my view is the best way to overcome that is make it clear to these folks that, one, we share their values when it comes to social issues in terms of family and the like, because many of them are socially quite conservative. And 2 is that we believe in opportunity. We don't believe in long-term dependence. That's not what we believe in. And if those folks who want to improve their family's life should be Republicans. That's what's happened in past generations, and that's what will happen this time too if we do it right. But if we turn them all off by saying we don't care, that's not the way to do it.
I don't disagree, but I'm glad to hear you say some of the things you said on the immigration, because I now we do agree that tone down the rhetoric, but let's enforce the border.
Yeah.
There was a bus recently, Doug, where they had a room twice this size with armaments, grenades.
Tom,
there's weaponry
I know people whose lives have been devastated by methamphetamines brought in by folks from Mexico. Okay. You need to stop it. And it's not just Mexico, it's also the deserts of California where it comes in. We need to stop it.
But that's still that border
that means
situation.
Protecting Iowa's borders by checking folks who come into our state in order to prevent that from occurring, that's what we ought to do.
Yeah.
Doug Gross is our guest today, Republican Party strategist, former chief of staff with Governor Branstad, and gubernatorial candidate himself. We're going to come back in just a little bit. And I just want to talk a little bit about this Governor Branstad speeding thing. I see it, and maybe I'm guilty because I'm bringing it up. I just don't know why this was Dave Price's lead story on Channel 13 last night, why it was in the Des Moines Register again today, every time we turn around, the biggest and worst thing that this governor's ever done is allowed speeding by his state trooper drivers. So we'll talk about that.
Okay.
All right. Another thing I want you to think about, as long as you and I are talking this afternoon, remember that we have Restoring Hope Live coming up on Sunday again, and I have an amazing guest. Well, we have a great guest every week, but we have a real amazing guest on the 27th, which is the Sunday before Halloween. We have a former witch, and I don't mean your mother-in-law. I mean a fully accredited occult witch who converted to Christianity. And this, you can Google her. Her name is Annie Meadows. She is from Las Vegas. She is a national figure in speaking on this subject. She's very knowledgeable, very educated, and she's very willing to tell the truth. And the scary thing about what she will talk to us about is how the occult is beginning to slip into government schools. You call them public schools. I call them government schools. How the occult and their ways are becoming acceptable, credible teachings within government schools. And these are 8-year-olds. These are 9-year-olds. These are 4-year-olds that are being told some of the ways of the Wiccan are acceptable as part of our culture. And those of us who have a Lord and Savior named Jesus Christ know that it just can't be. We can't have children believing in the evil and the witchery of witches and the occult. So mark your calendars. It'll be October 27th, high noon. We'll also have all the podcasts on the site at restoringhopelive.com. The 27th day of October, live Annie Meadows. Look her up on the Google and find out what's going on there. Dr. Mike Hartwig, Bob Montserrat, and myself will be here for an amazing conversation. And it's not about you. I know you know the difference. It's about our grandchildren. It's about our children. It's about the kids in the school. And it's about us getting a hold of these public school districts and telling them, you went too far a long time ago, but now you're really too far. We'll talk about that when we come back live here on The View from a Pew on KTIA, Iowa.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
I'm Brian Leach, owner and general manager of Service Legends. I brought along a couple of the home comfort heroes.
Hi, I'm Tammy Wells.
I am Nick Wondershide.
I am administrative manager.
I am the senior technician
from Service Legends.
It seems like every good thing, when you feel it to the bone that it's good, there's a lot of hard work put behind it. I don't think that you can fake it and have it turn out good.
You know, if we seem like, okay, that's just weird, it's just a furnace, why would you believe so deeply in a furnace? It's not just that, you know, we want to show the world that you can have good service.
Yeah, I mean, it's gotta be, it's your home.
You know, it's built into our daily trainings, it's built into our culture, that we're gonna do whatever it takes to have each client say they love us, period.
That's why we spend all the hours in the training that we do. And if we guarantee it's gonna be a good experience for you, or else it's free, what type of work do you think we're gonna do?
There is a guarantee.
Temperature selection guarantee, fixed right or it's free guarantee, comfort guarantee, best value guarantee. All of these guarantees hold us accountable to ensuring that we exceed your expectations. And if for whatever reason we'd fail and we can't make it right, we guarantee all of those guarantees with a 100% money back guarantee.
I mean, if you don't think that your technician can fix it right, are you gonna say that to a client? No.
You don't have to worry about having a technician come to your house.
We drug test, background check all of our team members. We put safe people in your home. Each and every one of our service techs, 400 hours a year in training.
You tell it the minute they walk in the door. They know what they're doing, they've done their homework, and they actually truly care about what you want.
Because at the end of the day, you're the person that makes sure I have a job.
They're gonna be listening. They're gonna wanna know what your challenges are. Then they're gonna come and give you options, and you get to choose.
If I'm there to help and I make it easy and painless, I did my job right that day.
Well, when it comes to your comfort, safety, and your family, you know, you don't necessarily go buy the most expensive, but you get the most bang for your buck.
Oh, it's worth it, because there's a lot of people that will find a way to get it to work right now and then leave and then come back, charge you again, and the cycle just repeats itself. So when I'm out there looking at the furnace, I want to find why it failed today. How can we change the part today with something that you're not going to have to worry about? Is it worth changing the part today? I mean, you can put a lot of money into a furnace. I can fix parts all day. There's good job security in that for me. But is it the right thing for you?
I get a lot of the phone calls of after the technicians are there. They're just in awe. They're like, wow, you guys are great. I mean, I don't even know what to say. You guys are great. Everything you did was perfect. It was great.
Keep going, though. I like this.
Just give us a try. I'm going to take all the risk.
I've got the time to make this right. I've got the support to make it right.
Just check us out.
And if you don't see the value in what we do,
I mean, fixed right or it's free or 100% money back.
enough said.
We're the ones in the pew, not pulpit. Come on now, let's reason together. The phone lines are open, so call 855-244-0077. Now, here's J. Michael McCoy.
22 before the top on this first day of October in the Lord's year 2013, a day that will it go down in infamy? Will it be that big a deal, or will it be a joke? The first time in 17 years, the United States government is quote unquote shut down. The honor flight from Des Moines, Iowa to Washington, D.C. this morning felt the first sting as these World War II vets, the greatest generation, got off the plane and headed to the National Monument for World War II. They found it closed, gated off. Guards said, no, you can't go in. And these 100 men of 70-plus age stormed those gates just like they stormed the beaches of Normandy. And these men got in to see their blessed World War II memorial. What else is shut down? The Des Moines Register did a pretty decent job today. They were not terribly biased, as they usually are, of letting us know some of the things that will be shut down. But soldiers will receive their pay, and Social Security checks will come out. Food stamps for all the crack whores out there, they'll get their money. Don't worry about that. And those people that need mental services will get that. What won't happen? Well, the Obamas are happy. There's no more tours at the White House for at least another 6 months. Meanwhile, President Obama cares more about our relationship with Syria and Iran than he does solving the problems at home. Stay tuned. We'll keep you updated. Today, my guest is Doug Gross, Republican Party strategist. Now, you were the chief of staff for Governor Branstad.
I was.
I want to talk for not very long because I don't want to be one of the problem makers here, but I just cannot believe that the press, Channel 13 lead story last night with David Price. It was front page of the Metro section today. Why? Here's what I told a liberal of mine who came at me with, oh, yeah, your governor breaks the law all the time by speeding. I said, if that's the best thing you've got to go against our governor, you just guaranteed him a 6th term.
Well, I think you probably answered it right there. I mean, they really don't have anything else to talk about. And so, I mean, he's done what he said he was going to do in spades. Yeah, and he's put our state back, most importantly, back in good fiscal condition. And so they really don't have much to talk about other than this. The reason why the media runs with it, I think, is because everybody understands it. And the media usually dumbs things down to the lowest common denominator.
And they ignored an interview they did with Vilsack, Doug, early on when this thing first kicked up. And Vilsack candidly said, we all do it. You know, we're running late for one appointment.
Well,
and Hillary, when she was in, I know somebody was in her carcade. I mean, they went 90 miles an hour down the interstate. This is common. And he says, we all do it. Well, they ignored that, and they act like Branstad was the first and only one to ever do that kind of thing.
I mean, that is the case. I mean, Vilsack has done it. Culver has done it. Branstad has done it. But what they don't get is he isn't in the car driving. I mean, he's in the back seat of the car, probably working on his remarks for the next event.
Exactly.
And You know, one of the things that I think strikes me as interesting about this is that I wonder why people aren't asking the question, why is he driving so much? I mean, why isn't he flying more?
Yeah, why isn't he in a helicopter?
Yeah, we don't have any helicopters. But when I worked for Bob Ray, when I worked for Terry Branstad back in the 80s, if we had to go to Sioux City, we hopped in a small plane and went up there. I mean, the governor's time is valuable. Everybody understands that. And so I would hope that one thing that maybe comes out of this that's good is maybe he gets more airtime rather than more road time.
Well, that might be a good solution, but it is.
Why is he taking...
I don't know. I mean, I suspect it's because of budget reasons, because he probably doesn't have the budget to do it. But I would think that we got to make certain our governor has the ability to go from one place to another in a relatively efficient way.
Exactly
we ought to do that.
Been very active, unlike our just the last occupant who was exceedingly indolent. This guy, you would think he's 20 years younger than he is given
Right.
the energy that he's
But
demonstrating.
I mean, there's a lot of yapping about it. It fills space. It spills time because they don't have a lot else to talk about. But bottom line, the election's not going to be won or lost over that issue. The election's going to be won or lost over whether or not who they think has the best chance of moving Iowa forward. And I think he's going to win hands down.
I agree. But Jack Hatch's first campaign ad was based on Branstad's driving thing.
Right.
And Hatch isn't known outside the metro area. He's not
neither
even
is
all
Tyler
that.
Olson. And neither one of them really are known. And what Hatch is trying to do with that ad, Mac, is he's trying to make it clear to the base of the Democratic Party, which is what he needs to win the primary, that he'll fight Branstad.
Yeah.
So that's what he was. And he didn't spend a lot of money doing it, and he got that kind of a rush out of it. And so we'll see what happens.
I want to talk a little bit about, we don't very often get a vacated U.S. Senate seat.
Yeah, like once every 2 generations.
That's right.
3.
We've got one coming up now, and I don't want to get into why Harkin stepped out now, but he is stepped out. Bruce Braley, since Tom Vilsack said he was not interested in the job, Bruce Braley stepped up. He has no challengers. He's got the clear field on the Democrats. We've got a number of people already in, maybe more to come on the Republican side. Can you kind of give me a quick handicapping on this?
Oh, boy. We've got a number of people in the race, and as you said, a number of people that may get into the race. So I certainly don't think the field is set yet. So I think you want to wait until the field's set before you really start evaluating it. But you've got Matt Whitaker, who's in the race. He was a former U.S. District Attorney. He ran for treasurer unsuccessfully the year I ran for governor unsuccessfully. And Matt is a former University of Iowa Hawkeye football player and is a trial attorney here in town. And Matt's a pretty vigorous guy, and I think we'll work aggressively at it. Joni Ernst is a state senator, first-term state senator from Red Oak, relatively small town, but also in the National Guard. I think she had a leadership position there, spent some time in Afghanistan as well. The difficulty for Joni will be probably that she's only been a state senator from such a short period of time. Not a lot of people know her. And she comes from a relatively remote part of the state, so she's got a lot of work to do in order to get known.
I saw she and Matt on the same stage a few weeks ago.
What'd you think?
There was no comparison. Matt had a depth and understanding of a wide variety of subjects. I was surprised at how much depth he had on some things. And I've known Matt for some years.
Yeah, I've known him for a long time.
Yeah, and Joni, just nice lady.
And I got to say, I don't really know Joni. In fact, I've never even met her.
Very nice appearing gal. But did not appear to have the depth or the temperament to deal with the things like Matt just very easily dealt with on stage. Some questions that were critical or expected a certain area of answer, he went just the opposite, but explained why, and I was very impressed with that. Shaban was the other one up there, and he's a
Scott
throwaway.
Shaban. Yeah, Scott Shaban is literally a used car salesman from Ames and sort of self-selected.
Throwaway.
You've got Sam Clovis.
Sam Clovis, who I've
radio
heard.
talk show host. I don't know if you've met him, Mac.
I know him.
I mean, he's very articulate.
Yeah, he's a good guy.
He knows the issues.
Yeah, he's a
right
good
now.
guy.
He's pretty much a regional candidate. So the question is whether or not he can get
He has
that.
no money, and
statewide.
I'm told by a lady, and I hadn't thought about this, said he will not appeal to the female audience. His age, his overweight, demeanor, and everything else.
Hey, I resemble that remark.
Well,
you ought to, Mac.
Yeah, but you're not running for anything. But I thought that was interesting, and I take that.
And some people think that Sam is sort of a stalking horse for Bob Vanderplat. So maybe Bob wants to get in later.
Now, what do you think about that?
I don't think that's true. I think Sam's a real deal. I think he's in there for him because he believes he ought to be the next United States senator. He's got a resume that's pretty impressive, and he's articulate. And he knows the issues. So I don't see Sam
like
backing
listening
out.
to Sam. Yeah.
I don't think he backs out at all.
But what about the possibility the Vanderplats may get in?
He has made it clear that if the finance report, we didn't talk about David Young, by the way, who was Grassley's former chief of staff, and I think the difficulty for David's a really nice guy. And he's trying to run sort of on the Grassley coattails. He's going to all 99 counties. He's working it very hard, and he's a great guy. But he hasn't been around for a long time. I don't know how well that's going to work. But anyway, so what Bob's doing is he's saying he's going to wait to see what the October 15th financial reports show. And if they haven't raised a lot of money, he's going to take that as an indication that they're not running a very serious campaign, and he may then get in by the end of the year. I take Bob at his word for that. I think that's a possibility that he might do that.
Now, do him and Whitaker then split the conservative vote?
Well, I mean, the weird thing right now, if you look at the structure of the race, and a lot of these things are structural, is that there's really no... I would call Sam more of a Tea Party candidate than I would a social conservative candidate. There's really no social conservative candidate in the race right
Whitaker?
now.
Whitaker isn't?
Matt's problem is that he sort of wants to be everything to everybody, in my opinion.
But I mean, he's strong on the issue of life.
They're
and
all
marriage.
strong on those issues, but they're not. When I say social conservative candidate, I'm saying that's their number one issue. They lead with those issues. They don't really have anybody like that. And so Bob maybe wants to play that role.
All right, when we come back, Doug Gross, Republican Party strategist, will wrap up on, okay, they shut the government down. Now what? What can you do? What should we look forward to doing in 2014? Is the solution to this problem vote them all out? We'll talk about that when we come back live on KTIA, Iowa.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Drink, dance, party. Kitty's is the ultimate dance club in Des Moines. A huge dance floor with room to move, 3 bars to keep your drinks full, and kickin' DJs playing all your favorite dance music. At Kitty's, we've always got your birthday party planned with Birthday Fridays. That's right, when your birthday rolls around, there's only one place to go. Gather up your friends and head to Kitty's, where you drink free on the Friday of your birthday week. Find out more about Birthday Fridays at kittiesusa.com. Kitty's, all kinds of people, all kinds of music, all kinds of fun.
Drug and alcohol addiction slowly steals a person's identity, tearing away pieces of their life little by little until one day it seems like the hope of a happy future is gone and there's no chance of getting it back. Here at St. Gregory Retreat Centers, we can assure you that there is hope. Our unique approach to recovery begins with the understanding that the dysfunction and damage caused by addiction can be overcome, not just dealt with. Don't let another day go by. Call St. Gregory today.
If you choose to obey the power of sin, it leads to death. If you choose to obey obedience, it leads to righteousness.
Forgiveness is just the beginning of life in Christ. God wants us to live for Him now.
And because of Jesus Christ, the gospel was preached, and you and I are blessed today because of Abraham. Did you know that? We're blessed.
Experience Truth, 99.3 FM.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
We've got questions. You've got the answer. Join the conversation. It's your voice we want to hear. So call 855-244-0077. Now, here's J. Michael McCoy.
10 before the top on this, the first day of October in the Lord's year 2013. I'm J. Michael McCoy. Reich Plakas in tomorrow and Thursday, and then a street preacher. A guy who travels around campuses around the Midwest and spreads the good news of Jesus Christ. Keith Darrell with us this Friday live on The View from a Pew. My guest today, Tom Coates, along with Doug Gross, Republican Party strategist, and want to talk about Grassley a little bit.
I do.
You guys had a good conversation going. If Grassley runs again and wins, how old will he be?
He would be 89 when his term is up.
Would that make him the oldest, or is Byrd still the oldest?
Byrd is, I think, dead.
Well, he is dead. He is dead, but didn't he go until 91? Or?
No, Strom Thurmond went until he was 99.
Yeah, he hit almost 100 on
Chuck
Strom.
has 10 more years to
He's a young man compared to
he's a spring chicken.
All right. Well, my question to you off the air, and I'll repeat it, is I suspected, and I'm often wrong on these things, that his strategy would be to get the seat, keep it past 16, presumably that Branstad would take into a second term on his governor's role, and given that his health holds up, that he would be in a position to appoint a successor when Grassley said, I'm ready to step down. And you said no. If he runs for re-election, you think he has every expectation to serve out the term.
Yeah, I think he announced as soon as he did it's because it was his 80th birthday. So that's obviously a threshold issue. Even if he served the full term, he won't get into the next decade of his life. And he just had finished a 6-mile run, so he showed that he was vigorous and in good health. And so this was a time to make it clear that he's planning to do this again, even though it's 3 years hence when it's 2016 when it finally comes up. I think he did that because he wants to keep other people out of the race. He doesn't want to have primary competition. Wants to make it clear he's going to go again. I think Chuck Grassley lives for that job. He loves it, and it's what it keeps him going, his adrenaline flowing, and keeps him, I think, frankly, in good health. Same thing to do with Branstad. I think Branstad's in far better health because he's governor.
Than he was before he was.
Yes,
yeah, that's right.
That gets adrenaline flowing in his system, and he loves it, and he does very well. So, no, I wouldn't expect anybody but Chuck Grassley to serve out his terms in office.
Is Grassley getting more time to prep his grandson, who spent some time in the state legislature this year?
Well, I mean, Chuck's very supportive of Pat, and when Pat had a primary opponent, Chuck got in and worked very hard for him to win. But Iowans don't really cotton to, basically a primogeniture sort of a system here of one person anointing another, particularly a grandfather or a grandson. I don't take that seriously. I don't see that happening at all.
And I don't know Pat, and I've never met Pat.
He's a nice guy.
But I hear that's all I hear.
Yeah, he's a nice guy and a good guy. Farms up there. He's a great guy. But Branstad can't. I mean, I know Governor Branstad would like to appoint his successor. He's not going to be able to.
Well, nobody knows. I mean, you get up in your 80s.
And he's not going to be able to either because Iowans just won't go for that.
Branstad's going to run again, right?
Oh, absolutely.
But I mean, if Chuck something happen to his health, maybe he doesn't die, but he gets sick enough where he can't continue. Branstad would be in a position to appoint somebody.
He would if he were governor.
That would potentially, because Iowans don't seem to like to change horses in that seat very often.
Right.
Put the right man or woman in there, then you've got
if
your
he
next.
puts the right one in there, that's true. But I mean, if you look around the country, we haven't had that happen. I don't know if we've ever had it happen in Iowa where we'd had a senator not be able to finish their term. But if you've seen around the country where that's occurred, even when the governor's appointed someone relatively popular, they have a hard time winning re-election because they don't tend to like appointed people being in elective office. They want them to earn it themselves.
Okay. All right. Okay, well, thank you for that.
And Iowa is probably as conservative as anybody in that way.
I
Don't
would
shove
think,
somebody down my throat.
Right, I would think so. I mean, Iowans are very sophisticated politically.
Are you satisfied with the job that Reynolds has done?
Kim?
Yeah.
I'd like to see, I think, first of all, I think Kim is a great person, represents herself and her position well. I'd like to see her do more things on her own.
She seems to be Branstad's shadow.
Yeah, she's almost like a parrot. She's just on his shoulder almost. And she needs to be her own person to show that she can do that job on her own. Mm-hmm. And I would hope and I would think that would occur over time if that's what she wants to do. But right now, I think she hasn't done enough of that, frankly, Mac. I think she needs to do more of it.
I mean, Branstad's kept her in every camera shot.
Every camera shot, and he has her in every meeting. And so she certainly knows the job. But as I said, if she can't explain why she wants to be governor and not use the words Terry Branstad, then she'll never be in the office.
Right.
So she has to earn it on her own.
I saw Kim just a week ago Sunday. Brad Payton's service was at Gloria Day.
I was there too.
Were you?
Wasn't
didn't
that
see
a great service?
Oh, it was one of the best I've seen.
And you gotta give Brad, God bless him, credit for that because he developed that. He designed that entire service.
Oh, that's incredible.
It was really, really good.
Right.
He was.
That was one of the most powerful sessions I've ever
Brad Payton, Joy Corning's son-in-law. When Branstad was in there earlier, he appointed Brad to be, and he was the chair of the Iowa Racing and Gaming Commission. He and I worked together.
Brad was one of the smartest guys I've ever known.
And when
I take it he died.
He died tragically of
56,
pancreatic cancer, 3-month illness.
Right. And he was the one that Bill Sack fired along with the other two to satisfy the casinos when they came in and made the deal.
Brad was an awesome. I'm still upset about it, but Brad taught his family how to die, and they talked about that, and it was really moving.
Yes,
really
it was. I said walking out of there, it was the best service I can remember sitting in.
Me too.
Yeah,
I've never been anything like that. It was impactful for everybody who was there.
Yeah.
Wow. All right, Doug. One more question before we go. When are we going to see you on the ballot again?
Probably never.
Now, when I get a never, I don't take it seriously.
Well, you should. No, I don't have any. You have to have a burning. We've talked about this before.
Yeah, you're happy with what you're doing.
You have to have a burning passion to do that. You have to have a certain level of hubris to do that.
That's a word you've used previously.
I lack that, and I'm proud of it.
What if Branstad asked you to come back into the administration for his last term?
I wouldn't want to do that.
You were speculated on earlier when Jeff Boink stepped down. The paper had you on the short list.
Bob Ray taught me something. I worked for him too. He said one time to me, he said, Doug, I never had a job I didn't like and never had a job I wanted to go back to. And I've always tried to live the same way.
Never had a job I wanted to go back to. Well, all right. That's good. Doug, thank you very much for being here. As always, it's a pleasure to have you
Mac.
here.
Thanks, Tom.
And Tom, thank you for being here. Look forward to having you next week. All right, we continue with gospel music and the popularity of that tomorrow and Thursday with Reich Plakas. And then on Friday, a street preacher is our plan. Restoring Hope this Sunday, going to be a great show. We ask that you take some time. A 6-year-old boy by the name of Leonard is dying of cancer, and his family just isn't going to let it go without some type of message. His name is Landon. I said the wrong name before. His name is Landon. It's Landon's story of hope and grace. That's this Sunday live on Restoring Hope. Until I see you again, until we hear each other again, do me just one favor, would you? Just one. Just pray.